Hi. How you doing today? Did you make it through Cinco de Mayo? Hope you had a good time. I'm okay. Working through it. I have had a lot of questions from my clients about the Department of Transportation's new airline rules, so I thought, let's go ahead and talk about those today. So you have questions, I have answers. Let's do a little Q&A. We're going to talk about the Department of Transportation's new rules that they just released, but before we get to that, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Gretchen, the Tipsy Travel Gal. I am a licensed esthetician and a travel agent, and it is my goal to eat, drink, and spa my way around the world, taking you with me, showing you some really cool things, some adventurous things to do, and of course, delicious things to eat and drink. My hope is that is going to inspire you to travel, whether that be international or domestic. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also, in the description is a link to my website, as well as a link to my GoFundMe page. Take a look, see what you think. If you got some extra cash, I would appreciate a donation. In fact, way more than you even know. But let's jump into these new DOT rules. I have to put on my glasses because there's some fine print that I have to read specifically. So let's start this now. So there are two main rules that the Department of Transportation released, and they're meant to alleviate two things for passengers. One, the actual performance of services and your compensation if they don't perform the services that they have advertised. And two, the junk fees that can take a very inexpensive fare and make it very expensive. So let's jump into it. We're going to start with rule number 1. All right, so the first rule has to do with basically the services they provide and their lack of providing them. Now, there are already rules in place, believe it or not, but they were very vague when they were written, and the airlines have kind of skewed them to their favor and also made it very difficult to get things like refunds for flights that were canceled or for services that they didn't give. They've kind of taken away that vagueness and made it very focused. So now airlines are required to give their passengers automatic refunds, meaning you don't have to ask anymore. They have to automatically refund you. And that is when flights are just completely canceled. They can't get them out in a timely manner. If they significantly change the flight, whether that be the flight the time turns off, especially when we're dealing with layovers, the equipment where seats can get dropped, if their checked bags are significantly delayed. So if your bags don't show up, they're supposed to have them to you in a very specific amount of time. Now they're saying, yeah, if they don't get your bags to you when they say they do, they're going to owe you money, and it's automatic. You don't have to ask for it. Or if you've purchased services like Wi-Fi or an upgraded seat and they do not provide that to you, you get that back. Because believe it or not, if you pay for an upgrade to first class and they change the equipment and that first class ticket goes away, or they need someone to have that seat, you don't get that money back without a fight, which is ridiculous, right? But now it's got to be automatic. You don't have to fight for it. One of the most important things about this is that you no longer have to dig through their website, make requests, or track down customer service. All three of those things can be challenging. It's difficult, even for me, and I am in this industry. You should get that money back in a prompt manner. It should take no more than 7 days. It has to be in its original form, meaning if you paid with it on a credit card, you get your credit card back. If you want to get that money back in cash, they have to issue you cash. If you bought a flight in miles, they have to give you those miles back. They can't give you vouchers. They can't give you credits unless you as a passenger choose to do that. But most people, they just want their money back. And it has to be the full amount. There are a couple caveats with that. Like if it's like, let's say it's, multiple legs to flights, and you've already taken one flight leg, that the second piece is what they have to refund you, not the whole flight, but so basically any travel that you have not completed, they have to give you the money back. And it has to include all taxes, fees, and airline fees. Things like luggage. That all has to be refunded to you. Now, this is going to make people's lives, especially mine, much easier when there is a problem, because you don't have to go stand and argue with people about this anymore. They have to give you a refund. Period. End of story. Now, the second is about those pesky little fees that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. Now, really, and I'm going to be honest here, when it comes to the larger airlines, they're really good about showing those fees on their website. I'm not going to say that they're always like front and center, but I mean, like, I can tell you what all of the baggage fees are for United flights, because, you know, it's on their website and it's easy to find, but there's a piece to that too. But I mean, we're talking, this is where the discount airlines, this is where they're basically clamping down on them. Remember, I've talked about airlines before on this channel, and, you know, I don't ever put people on discount airlines for two reasons. One of which is that they tend to be point to point, which means there's only one plane in each location. They don't have hubs. It's one plane that goes from point A to point B. And if that plane breaks down, that plane has to be fixed there, because there are no other planes that are coming for that plane's spot. The other thing, though, and the much bigger thing, in my opinion, is all of the fees. So let's get into it. The airlines are making ridiculous amounts of money on these fees. There, I said it. They are. I mean, they cannot sustain an airline on $50 tickets. They just can't. But where they get you is in those fees. And I've talked about it before on this channel. And they have a lot of different ways to collect some of that money. And it's really hurting people who are not tech savvy, or people who are on a budget, you know, people like senior citizens who don't use their smartphones. And then they find out that, you know, since they didn't check in online 24 hours ahead of time, now they're going to have to pay double at the gate. And that, I mean, that's just ridiculous. So anyway, this piece is really going to help consumers budget those significant costs, because some of those costs, especially on the discount airlines, they vary. And now it's going to make these airlines actually nail down these costs. So what is required? That they need to disclose baggage fees, change fees, and cancellation fees up front. The only thing that could possibly waiver is the cost of the ticket. So they have to tell you up front what those baggage fees are going to be. No more variables. Most of the major airlines already do this. This is going to be really directed at the discount airlines. Also, you need to spell out weight and dimension limitations. For the most part, most of them already do, but it's going to have to be very specific and prevalent. To describe any prohibitions or restrictions on changing or canceling your flight. So they have to spell all of that out. They're going to have to make decisions and post those on their website. Also, I kind of briefly touched on this, they have to go into detail their policies related to the differences in switching to a more expensive or less expensive flight. Now, all that information can be slightly overwhelming, but that's where I step in, and the airlines are required to give that information to me so I can explain it to you. Also, this rule affects me. I am selling someone airline tickets. I have to make sure they're aware of all these things. The baggage fees, the change fees, the cancellation fees. I have to make sure that they are told those things up front. I have to make sure they know what their weight and dimension limitations on their included luggage is. I need to make sure that they are very clear what their prohibitions and restrictions on being able to change or cancel their flight. And if they are allowed to change, what that means if they change to a more expensive or less expensive flight. And mind you, I don't mind this at all. In all honesty, I pretty much already do that anyway, but that's why, again, I don't put people on discount airlines, because I can't ever find that information. And I've had too many horror stories, not from my travelers, but from other people that I've worked with travelers. So yeah, I mean, I already do that already, but now I'm going to be required to do that. Also, airlines are required to make sure that flyers know that seats are guaranteed, and they don't have to pay for seat selection if they don't want to. That being said, people who pay for seat selection will get to pay for their seat selection. And since they will be refunded that seat selection if they don't get it, they're going to get that seat selection. But your seat will be guaranteed. I mean, not the location of it, but your seat's going to be guaranteed. You don't have to pay for seat selection unless you want to do some of the premium seating or you want to get closer to the front of the plane. They have to provide standard and passenger specific fees. So like if you are using one of their cards or you're using your mileage, they have to be able to show you the difference between the two in terms of cost. So like if you're going to be flying with miles, how much would that be if you were just going as a standard passenger, which is actually quite nice because if it's a cheaper flight and you'd be better off paying for the flight instead of using your mileage, I mean, it's great to have that upfront comparison. And last but not least, and the most important one, is they have to add the discount bait and switch. Again, the discount carriers all do this. When you are buying airfare, they have to disclose to you how much all the taxes and airport fees are up front, right? So let's just say your flight is from Chicago to New York is $300, okay? Well, you're not paying $300, right? Because you have to pay taxes on that flight. So the airlines are already required to disclose that. Also, they have to disclose airport fees. So when you fly from Chicago to New York, your airport fees at New York, you have to pay for those as well. So the airlines already have to do that. So let's say you get a really cheap discount ticket. I once saw somebody get a discount ticket from Denver to Chicago for like $20. I'm not going to say which one, but let's just say the colors of that airline are very closely resembling what I am wearing right now. They got the $20, and then by the time they paid the taxes and fees, it was like $35. People were excited, and then when it came down to all the details, like, oh, we want to go select our seats. No, you have to pay extra for that. All right, we want to check our luggage. No, you have to pay extra for that. And you have to do it by this time. And we don't know exactly how much it's going to be, but you have this very small window to pay for your luggage. We'll let you know when it's time. So, I mean, it's bringing these prices up to the level of some of the cheaper, more standard airlines. So that stuff is going to stop. My heart sings. What does this kind of mean for discount flights? Well, I'm going to bet, I mean, everybody's going to think that their flights are going up. And that's not really what's going to happen. Now they're just going to roll those fees in the ticket prices. Those fees were already there. You were just surprised with them when you went to check in for your flight. So I hope that helps kind of cover these two new rules that the Department of Transportation has released. I personally think it's going to make things much better. They do have 6 months to get their systems in place to make these things happen. Plus, automatic refunds are going to have to be something that they're going to have to trigger. So that will be interesting too. But I honestly think it's going to make the experience of flying much better because, I've had people call saying that they showed up at the airport and they're demanding $250 for their flight. I mean, yeah, it's horrible. So hopefully that's going to stop this from happening. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about this content or you have a question that you would like me to answer, you could comment below. Commenting in general kind of helps with the algorithm. So even if you don't know what to comment or if you don't have a comment, if you could just comment something like Q&A airfare, that would be great because it kind of just pushes me into a different algorithm, which is great. Of course, liking it does as well. If you don't want to leave me a comment here, you can always go on any of my social media accounts. I am Tipsy Travel Gal, all one word, on all the main platforms. Or you can go to my website, tipsytravelgal.com, and if you look at the top menu, there is a contact me link, and if you go there, it will take you to a place to send me an email. I took my glasses off to say my goodbyes, so again, thank you so much for watching this video, and until the next time, bye!